two magnets of magnetic moment M and M root 3 are joined to form a cross, and they are suspended in a uniform magnetic field B. So let's say that this is the magnetic field B. This is the angle theta which the magnetic moment M makes with the magnetic field. If the system has come to rest, that means the torque on the first magnet is equal to the torque on the second magnet. And the torque on the first magnet will be given by M cross B, and similarly for the second magnet it's going to be M cross B. I can just call this M1 and M2. So this would be MB sine theta, which is equal to, for the second magnet we have M root 3 B sine 90 minus theta. Because if this makes an angle theta with the magnetic field, then the other dipole moment is going to make an angle of 90 minus theta with the magnetic field. The important point in this question is that the plate separation is increased without disconnecting the battery. If the battery is not disconnected, if the battery stays connected, then the potential difference across the plates of the capacitor does not change. This will not change, and the charge on the plate of the capacitor can change. This will change. Now let us see if it increases or decreases. See, if you look at the capacitance of the capacitor, it is increased. We look at the formula for C as epsilon naught A over D. Now if D is increased, if this is increased, then the capacitance will decrease. If C decreases, then let's look at the charge. The charge Q is equal to C times V. V remains same. This does not change. C decreases. If C decreases, Q will also decrease. So the charge stored on the capacitor decreases. The energy in the capacitor is given by, we'll use the formula, either you can use Q square by 2C or half CV square. In this case we'll use half CV square because V is staying constant. C decreases. As C decreases, this reduces, so E will also reduce. So the energy stored in the capacitor decreases. Next, let's look at the electric field. The electric field E is given by sigma over epsilon naught, and sigma is Q by A, the charge per unit area. Now in this question, Q is going to decrease, so E will again decrease. So this also decreases. Had the question been that the plate separation is increased after disconnecting the battery, then in that case what would have happened? In that case, Q would have remained same, C would have decreased, and V would have also changed. V would have been, V is equal to Q by C. Q remains same and C decreases. Then V would have increased. This is the case if the battery is disconnected and the plate separation is increased. Focal length of a lens is given by 1 by F equals N2 by N1 minus 1 times 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. In the formula over here, N2 is the refractive index of the medium of which the lens is made, and N1 is the surrounding medium in which the lens is placed. Now, according to the first part of the question, the lens is made of refractive index mu and it is placed in air. So in that case, we have mu over 1 minus 1 times 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. This is the value of 1 by F. In the question, we need to find the change in the focal length. So from this, let's write F. We can write F as, see, this can first be written as mu minus 1 times R1 R2, R2 minus R1. Similarly, for the second case, we can write 1 over F dash is equal to, the lens is now placed in a medium of refractive index n times 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Similarly, we can write F dash as, so if you take the LCM for this, this would be mu minus n over n. So when we find F dash, we have to take the reciprocal. So that would become n by mu minus n times, then delta F is given by F dash minus F, and this comes out to be R1 R2 over R2 minus R1 times, this would be n by mu minus n minus 1 over mu minus 1, because we've taken this common. Now, if the lens is placed in a medium whose refractive index is greater than the refractive index of the lens, then this is different from the case when it is placed in a medium whose refractive index is less than the refractive index of the lens. N less than mu is like placing a lens in air. In that case, a convex lens will converge a beam of light which is incident on it, and its focal length is positive. But if the same lens is placed in a medium whose refractive index is more than that of the lens, the light which is incident on it will diverge, and the focal length of this lens is negative, and it behaves like a diverging lens. Current density J is a vector quantity, and this can be written as, so we can write the current as I is equal to NE A times V, the drift velocity. This expression can be derived, and the current density J is equal to I over A, which is equal to NE times the velocity, the drift velocity. Now, since we have to find the change in the current density with the increase in potential gradient, so we can write the drift velocity V as, see, if you have a conductor of length L across which a potential difference V has been applied, then the electric field E which acts can be written as V by L. Due to the electric field, there is a force on the electrons. Since there is a force, there will be an acceleration. So the acceleration on the electrons is given by the force over mass, and the drift velocity is written as acceleration times tau. So this can further be written as NE A times the relaxation time, which is equal to NE, and the acceleration is given by the force over mass times tau, and we can write this as NE square over m into tau, and E can be put as V by L. Now, if the potential gradient V is increased, then J will also increase. If you increase the temperature, then the relaxation time tau will decrease because the collisions will become more frequent, so the time between two collisions will decrease. So in that case, J will decrease. If you increase the length, if L is increased, then the electric field will decrease. So J will decrease. In this case, J will decrease. And if you increase the area of cross section, you can see that there is no dependence over here. So there it will make no difference to the current density. The angle of incidence in this case would be this angle, and the angle of refraction would be the angle between the refracted wavefront and the interface. Now, to find the refractive index, see, this is water and this is air. So the refractive index of water with respect to air is sin I over sin R. So the refractive index of air with respect to water would be the reciprocal of the refractive index of water with respect to air. So this would be sin R over sin I. Now from the triangles, right angle triangle, you can see that sin R would be W over, and let's say this distance I'll call this AB. Sin R is W over AB, and sin I is equal to Y over AB. So this gives us the refractive index as W over Y. If we look at radiation and matter, then what do we find? Radiation would be electromagnetic radiation, or let's say light. Let's look at their nature. This exhibits particle-like behavior as well as a wave nature. Wave nature can be explained through the phenomena of interference, diffraction, and the particle nature of light can be explained by photoelectric effect. Now, if you look at matter, matter of course behaves like a particle of mass m. Now de Broglie suggested that since everything in nature is symmetrical, so radiation or energy and matter should have a symmetrical nature. So matter should also have a wave nature in addition to the particle nature. And for that, with matter, he associated a wave of wavelength lambda equal to h by p, where p is the momentum of the particle. Next, we have to show that the energy of a photon is 2 lambda mc by h times the kinetic energy of the particle. The de Broglie wavelength lambda of a photon is found from the relation E is equal to hc by lambda. See, for a photon, we cannot use the formula lambda is equal to h by mv because a photon is said to be massless. So for a photon, we need to find out its wavelength using the relation E is equal to h nu or E is equal to hc by lambda. So lambda is equal to hc by E. Now the de Broglie wavelength associated with a particle of mass m is lambda is equal to h by mv, which is equal to the momentum of the particle, and this can be written as h by under root 2 mk, where k is the kinetic energy of the particle. So we have lambda square is equal to h square over 2 mk, or the kinetic energy of the particle is equal to h square by 2 m times lambda square. So this is the kinetic energy of a particle, and we know that the energy of a photon is given by hc over lambda. So next we'll take a ratio of these two quantities. So k over E would equal